everyone knows we've been having trouble with this, so I picked out 7 issues that I feel were major issues that we have run into in the past 2 months or so that I want you to know about. And after I do that, we're going to talk about replacement companies or replacing FSR. I just want to read this to you first, and then we're going to open the floor to discussion. I'm going to read first, and then Debbie's going to give additional information, and then Steve will. But we are going to open it up for you. Why we wanted everyone here was we need your input in making decisions as to how we're going to go about this. So, to start off, I'm going to start with the K&N situation. Everyone was aware that we had a lot of issues going on with K&N. But one of the things that we were pretty amazed at was the fact that Emily, former Cam, was the one who negotiated that with FSR. And she went in there to negotiate the fact that we weren't getting services, including fertilizer. She wrote what was called an addendum. It was never really addendum, but she wrote this agreement without ever saying anything about fertilizer, without getting the correct price or cost negotiation correctly, and then proceeded to agree to that. The board agreed to it. No one ever signed it, but we reduced their contract cost by $136 a month. That all came out in that meeting that we had. But instead of $1,600 a month, it ended up being $133 or $134 a month. Big mistake. So nothing was ever done about it. The management did nothing about it. They were aware of it. The board dropped the ball on it, as you know. But that was a major issue that cost us a lot of money, and the management company did nothing about it. During that process, the second thing I want to talk about is there was an altered official document. So it's on March 22nd of 2021. I was called to the office by the treasurer to help with a meeting with Emily about the K&N overpayment. We discussed the situation with Emily. She admitted she made a mistake. So I asked them why wasn't anything done about it. And at that meeting, we decided, the treasurer and I and Emily, that Emily would go back to K&N and try to renegotiate it. Nothing was ever done about it. After that meeting, nothing was done. What I found out a few days later was that the minutes from the September board meeting were changed by Emily after they were voted in and approved. And I presented that, Debbie and I presented that to Megan before we had the special meeting, so she knew about it. That's a major offense. So the proof that I have, and I have the documents if anybody wants to see it. So I have a copy of the notes from the I have a copy of the notes that actually my wife and I did. We were at that meeting as unit owners. And in the notes, it clearly states $1,600 per month from K&N to end the lawn pest control. That's what the note says. The original minutes from that meeting were presented to the board members to be voted on at the next month's meeting, which was in October. I have a copy from Debbie's packet. It's the original minutes that were voted on. And where it says Business C, under New Business C, Lawn Pest Control, it reads, motion to ratify Massey Lawn Treatment, Al Larson. Second, Marty Schultz, all in favor. That's straight from those minutes. Well, I have a copy of the minutes that are posted on our website right now that I downloaded on March 22nd after that meeting that say under New Business, C, Lawn Pest Control, it now reads, K&N Lawn Maintenance will reduce their maintenance contract by $1,600 annually. We're alleging that Emily added that after the fact. After they were voted, after they were posted, legal documents The next document I have is the metadata. Now, I don't know if you know what that is, but every file, every electronic file has information attached to it that tells you when it was created, who created it, and I just happened to make a copy of it. It shows Emily Shannon created and modified and uploaded that document on March 22nd at 2:35 p.m. The next document I have is a screenshot from my cell phone where the treasurer called me to come into that meeting. And that shows he called me on March 22nd at 2:22 p.m. So 13 minutes after he called me from the office, sitting there with Emily, that document was changed. And when we presented that to the management company, they did nothing about it. We said, we don't want her, we don't trust her. They did nothing about it. The third item is about the back pool fence. You're all aware of what happened with that. We failed the inspection in June because the fence is broken. Maintenance, major issue. We're paying this company for a full-time maintenance man, and that fence is rusted and rotten. And how long has it been like that? This company has been with us since, what, 2016? Our maintenance man has never taken any rust off of that fence, never done anything about it, and no one cared. So now we have to replace that fence. They failed in the maintenance. Did anybody even think about that? So we temporarily fixed it, and now we're getting estimates on how to replace it. It's costing us a lot of money, and it could have been prevented. Emily's hours in the office. I'm sure some of you have experience coming to this door during operating hours and the door's locked and no one's here. It happened all the time.
It's a rain joke.
We have emails, we have calls from people complaining about it constantly. We went to the management. Why isn't she here? What's going on? Nothing's ever done. Well, the final straw was when on June 30th, she calls, or we get an email from Megan, her boss, June 30th at 7:58, that Emily is now in quarantine. She will not be in until Tuesday. That was Wednesday, prior to the 4th of July weekend. It's the end of the month, beginning of July, people coming in with payments, all of those payments need to be recorded. We have no one in the office. The office is completely closed. I talked to Megan, Debbie talked to Megan, we need somebody in here. Nobody shows up. I finally, over the weekend, demanded that somebody be here on Tuesday. So they sent an admin person, if you remember, that 4 days after the July 4th weekend, we had an admin person sitting in here answering the phone, but we still don't have a full-time cam. We're paying for a full-time cam, and we do not have one. So, Megan, on the 13th, lets us know that Emily has resigned. And they do not have anyone to replace her. So Megan will be sitting in here, which she has been doing since the 13th. Well, Megan happens to be a regional director who has 18 properties that she takes care of. And we're one of the smallest. And now she's here, sitting here managing 18 properties while she's supposed to be doing our CAM duties. I have so many things that have been dropped, that I've been trying to get done, things that need to be done that aren't getting done. So we're, for the last month, managing the manager, trying to get things done. I have to meet the vendors. I have to figure out why they haven't done what they have done, what they should have done. All of that is what we're paying for, and still, even going to Megan's boss, who is the vice president of the company, no response. I've sent him 5 emails in the last 2 weeks, and I have not got a response from him. So they're failing us. the issue with the tree company. We just had 4 seasons. We don't have a contract. Let me restate that. We had a proposal from them for $27,500 that we were presented with. Before the board meeting, Emily interviewed those 3 tree companies. She drove them around the property. She showed them what needed to be done. Before we were presented the proposals, she drove me around the property. And she pointed to all these tree limbs over the roofs that were going to get cut, and she showed me all these trees that were going to get cut down, and everything was going to be brought up, the canopy was going to be raised. Well, we had 2 over $40,000 estimates, and one $27,500. So we opted for the $27,500. No written agreement. I'm waiting to get some kind of contract or agreement to sign so they can start. I find out they're here cutting. Emily gave them a verbal agreement. Go ahead. It's unbelievable to me that that could happen. And then I get an email from Megan for me to approve the invoice, pay them $27,500. They're not even half done. And she's wanting me to pay them. Management, we're not being managed. It's just absurd. So when I became president on June 7th, I finally had access to their invoicing system. The invoicing system that FSR uses, that our CAM was in charge of, is set up that if the CAM thinks I should look at an invoice to approve it, she'll put it into the queue that I look at. If she thinks she can just go ahead and pay it, she'll go ahead and pay it. I just couldn't, and when I asked FSR about that, they said, oh, well, that's your choice. If you want to look at all of them first, we can set it up that way. Well, why wouldn't we have it set it up?
Absolutely.
It's just absolutely ridiculous. So as I start looking into this invoice system, the current invoices that I'm supposed to approve dated back to February. This is middle of June. And I'm looking at invoices that haven't been paid yet, and they're from February, and I asked Emily about it. She said, oh, no, those have been paid. I just never got around to putting them in the system. It doesn't matter. So that means our financial statements are not up to date. Our financial statements don't show everything that we paid. How can that not matter? And this is a failure by the management company. So, along with that, and this is a really interesting one. There were invoices in there that were input by Emily that were over what was paid. The dollar amount was wrong. One was a $200 invoice that was in for $325. Why would that be? Well, there's also invoices in our system that Emily was allowed to use her personal credit card to pay for services. She's paying vendors with her personal credit card.
Oh, my.
We are reimbursing, FSR is writing checks to Emily every month for things that she supposedly charged on her credit card. Well, being in business, I had this happen. It's called a closed loop. One person handling the sending of the bills and the collecting of the money with no one watching it. What is happening? She's overpricing an invoice into our system and charging back money that maybe wasn't spent on anything. It evens out. When they reconcile the bank account, it zeroes out. We don't know that happened. I'm not saying it did. I don't know. I'm just saying it's an opportunity. The second one I found was for a plumbing company that came and did work in a unit. We had originally called the plumber because we didn't know if the valve outside was good. Turned out the valve was good. The problem was in the unit. They fixed it. It was a $300 and something bill, and the owner paid it by credit card out on the spot. I was supervising this whole thing, not Emily. I supervised it. And then I see the invoices listed as if we paid it.
Oh.
And I looked at the invoice, and it says paid in full, zero due. She's got it keyed in for a $300 payment. FSR has it in our books as if it's going to be paid, or was paid. How can that be? Why is that? FSR has no answer for that. I sent that straight to On. I sent him copies of everything. I never got a reply. 2 weeks ago. Never got a reply. The final one I want to talk about is a landing repair that was requested last summer in June with FCC, company that does work here. It was a $13,900 estimate to repair a landing. On August 4th, Emily sent an email, it's approved. August 4th of last summer. It's never been fixed, by the way. There were emails back and forth between Emily and this company about getting the permit. Apparently they're having a hard time getting the permit. Well, it went all the way to December. From July to December of last year, FCC on December 14th emailed, we finally got the permit, when can we start? December 16th, Emily tells them, hold off, we don't have the money. Why, I don't know. Same day, FCC requests that they be paid $2,185 to hold the material, to pay for the engineering plan, and the permit. We paid it. We paid them last December $2,185. January 25th, FCC emails Emily, when are we going to start the job? She emails, I will get working on it. I'm surprised, I forgot. She totally dropped the ball. But in January, they're saying, when do we start? February 24th, a whole month later, they email Emily. We're either going to have to extend it or cancel the permit. What do you want us to do? She never replied. They dropped it. Emily dropped it. Megan dropped it. Everybody dropped it. July 9th, okay? That was February. Now July 9th, Megan gives me documents to sign for closing in here because I need to sign an affidavit that we have the money to pay for this repair because the permit is still open. And I said, what repair? What's going on? This is July 9th. I just found all this out. It's still sitting there. I called the FCC and said, explain this to me, what's going on? He explains the whole thing. This is what happened. And he said, what do you want to do? He said, if you want us not to do the job, it's going to cost you $500 to cancel the permit and $500 more to cancel the job. It's just ridiculous. So I said no. I said, I want my materials, I want my engineering plans, and we're not paying you anything else. We checked with the city, and there is no charge to cancel the permit. They told us it's still good for another 2 weeks. It's not overdue yet. So I said, we're not paying you anything. We agreed to that. We have an estimate to repair that landing now for less than $6,000, and the company agreed to use our materials and subtract the cost off that. So that's how we're proceeding with it. I sent all that to On. I sent it right as this was happening. Why is this going on? No response. To this day, no response. That's our management. And Debbie has more.
That's a lot right there, Vic. Okay, well, let's see, where do I even begin? Well, it basically goes without saying that, we have tons and tons of complaints from owners that, their calls are not returned, their emails are not returned, there's basically nothing being followed through. I know that I have many times, and as you know, we're a new dynamic here, the three of us instead of the 5 that were here before, but I know for me, I have complained many times to my board colleagues about getting rid of FSR a long time ago. Because this is nothing new. You guys know this isn't something that just came up overnight. And unfortunately, you know, I was one of 5. So, you know, it's a shame that it had to get this bad. I really feel like I owe you guys an apology, but I mean, I was one person that didn't have the power to overthrow a few people that did not want to get rid of FSR. Why? I don't know. But clearly, we're in a mess. So I have asked Megan over the last, I don't know, probably 3-4 months. I've asked her several times. I'm like, Megan, come on, let's be real here. You know we need a new manager. Can you find us a new manager? Debbie, I don't have anybody. I get it. I said, there's a lot of complaints. You're getting them directly to you. I don't have anybody. Well, she never, you know, said to me, hey, I'll look for somebody, or we'll get this thing going, or anything. I've had to ask her probably 2 or 3 times over the last few months, Megan, we need a new manager, and they've done nothing. So I don't know what their plan was, or if they had a plan, but they were negligent, they didn't care, they were rivals for the money, basically. So I want to just kind of piggyback on a couple things that Vic already mentioned. I will talk to you for a minute about the pool permit. The pool permits are due for renewal every July 1st. It was June 30th, and I was like, ooh, Emily's been out of work for how long? Gosh, has anybody even pursued this? And I asked these two, I'm like, hey, what do you guys know about this pool permit? It needs to be displayed, not just applied for and paid for. It needs to be displayed by July 1st. And it was like, okay, well, we have 2 of the 3 permits, but we're missing the 1. I thought, well, that's crazy, right? Why would we have the spa and the front pool, but no back pool? So I brought it up to Megan. I'm like, listen, all we need is somebody to notice that we're not in compliance, and we don't have an active pool permit. Somebody will turn us in just out of spite. So Megan, after 20 days, I figured it was handled. I handed over to the regional director. It was handled. Nothing was ever said to me. Nothing was ever said to me. About 2 or 3 nights ago, Vic calls me and he says, hey, what do you know about a hole in the back fence? And I said, oh, that hole's from 2017. He's like, no. We have a hole. So long story short, we failed an inspection. I don't even know if it was in June. I think Megan told me it was April or May that we failed that inspection at that back pool. Not only did the board, any board, know anything about this, but the manager and her superior did absolutely nothing. We ran the pool for a little bit of time out of compliance because nobody knew. I mean, we were sitting here without a permit. But we have one now. We're good to go. I'm just saying, and I'm not patting myself on the back, but we could still be sitting here without a permit if nobody would have brought this up and nobody would have pursued it. And so there we are with that. I particularly was very, very upset and very whatever with the fact that Emily, our manager, took it upon herself to make a house call to the board president at the time. I find that very inappropriate. I talked to Megan about it, and they did nothing. So, just one more thing. The last thing I want to bring up is probably the most important thing for this entire community. We all know that we're in the middle of a multi-million-dollar roofing project, right? It's a 3-phase project. We have Prime Roofing as our vendor. I wasn't part of this deal because this is back, I don't even remember, let's see here. It's been a few years. So the big selling point for Prime Roofing was the fact that they were going to give Lakecrest free repairs for any roofs that had not been completed that had a problem. Like, say for example, we've got 2 phases done. If phase 3, a roof leaks next week, Prime Roofing agreed verbally to come out and fix that roof. Now, the management company ultimately should be putting our contracts together, right? And our management company, along with the board, should be talking to the lawyers and shoring up a multi-million, I don't care if it's a $50 contract or $500 contract, when you're dealing with a multi-million-dollar contract and you basically buy this company, one of the big as I said, the selling point was, hey, they're gonna, that was the big deal, right? I personally checked with several of the past board members, one of which, I mean, I don't know, we never did get to the bottom of whether or not there was an addendum, because there's nothing here in writing that says anything about the fact that this company is going to repair our roofs for free. I'm going to read this right here. It says, no verbal or other express or implied warranty is valid other than what is in writing. This express warranty is provided in lieu of all other warranties, whether expressed or implied, written or otherwise. Said warranties are explicitly disclaimed. There is one little, very, very vague, practically a fragment of a sentence that says, we will temp patch other roofs throughout the project as deemed necessary by Prime Roofing and the Lakecrest Board. I know that when we did the Duval contract, we went back and forth with the new attorney probably 6-8 times and made sure that every single solitary thing was tied up to a T, nothing left to the imagination. This contract right here, management dropped the ball big time. And, you know, I'm not here to throw the board under the bus or anything, but, you know, this just wasn't done properly, and we're stuck. But the good news is there's one more phase left, and I know that we are going to be renegotiating this contract to make sure that there's what we need. Also, another thing I failed to mention is this particular operation here did not include any of the chimneys. I don't know if you guys are noticing, but there's a lot of chimneys that have tarps over them. There's a lot of money going out with chimney repairs. It's because this contract right here did not address chimneys, nor did it address the rodent guards, if I'm saying that properly.
Yeah.
So go ahead with that.
Just to follow up, we're going to attempt to renegotiate a contract.
Okay.
Because we have a contract, we cannot change it on our own, they have to agree to it. Otherwise they can hold us to it. So we'll attempt to make it better as best we can. I've already spoken to the owner of Prime Roofing. He's calling me tomorrow so we can set up a meeting, and he knows all the problems and he's sounded very willing to work with us. So hopefully it'll go well.
I have one more thing, real quick. I want to piggyback on one more thing Vic said, and I promise you I'm done. Regarding these altered meeting minutes, I want to point something out because I want you guys to understand what we believe. I should speak for myself. What the point of this was. You may be asking yourself, why would somebody alter these minutes to say, motion to ratify Massey Lawn Treatment, Hal Austin, K&N Lawn Maintenance will reduce their maintenance contract by $1,600 annually. So what the manager did, and the treasurer was here at the time, I'm not saying he knew about it, but you know, if he was here, what they did was they want you to go onto the online and see that the whole board made this mistake and approved $1,600 annually. Okay, when I received my board packet, the whole board did not approve $1,600 annually. This set of minutes that was in my packet says motion to ratify Massey Lawn Treatment, Hal Austin, second, Marty Schultz, all in favor. So the altered one wants you to know that board president and board treasurer didn't act on their own. They want you to think that. Because these meeting minutes imply that we all sat here and we all approved this major, major error that went for 10 months without anybody ever bringing it up to the rest of the board. Okay, and as we know, we've had a major, major, major scandal over this. We've got a lot of misinformation flying around this community, and it's really, really harmful. It's harmful to all of us. So I want you guys to know the truth. That's all I have to say, and I appreciate your time. But I know that I can speak for the three of us that we are doing our darndest to pull things back together, to uncover negligence, to uncover errors, to bring on a new management company, to do whatever we can in good faith in this community to be the best that we can be. And we are here for you. We are working for you. And that is why we've opened the floor up. We want transparency. We want participation. We want you to feel part of this, part of these decisions. Thank you.
Thanks, Debbie. Steve?
All right. Now First of all, I just want a point of clarification. I think our roof contract is like for 1.5 million.
No, okay.
So it's not a
Not multi-million, all right,
So,
sorry.
Just as a point of clarification.
To me, that's multi-million.
Bottom line, it's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
Well, as you can tell, it's been made pretty apparent by my colleagues that we need to make a change in our current HOA management. To that end, we did reach out to 5 companies. They were Lighthouse, Associa, Vesta, Castle, and Leland. One of those companies never even sent us a proposal, even though we reached out to them. 4 of them did. 2 of the companies only quoted the contract with an administrative person. They were Associa and Vesta. While 2 others quoted both a full-time CAM and they also quoted with just an administrative person. Now, as a board, we felt very strongly that at this point in time, we needed to have a qualified CAM on duty full-time, which is different than having an administrative person that someone follows up on occasionally. They get paid about $16, $17 an hour. We just felt having a full-time CAM here who's licensed, knows their stuff is the way to go. So therefore, we narrowed our search to just 2 companies. They were Castle and Leland. We allowed them to make their pitch through a Zoom call. Only one company took us up on that, and that was Castle. We got to know the company, speak face to face with the hierarchy of the company, understand their history, their culture, what they look for in a CAM that runs their properties, and also to talk about their maintenance program and the person who would oversee their maintenance program. We were also provided references to those. So, we checked the references and so forth. But, at this point, I'd like to, open the discussion, up to you folks. And, because I'm prepared to make a motion that we move with Castle. But, having said that, I'd like to open the discussion to the board, people in the audience, and to give you folks a chance to talk.
Are they more, is Castle more or less than FSR? More or less than FSR?
They're actually the same.
Same.
Because their proposal was, $183,000, which would include all their bells and whistles and so forth. Whereas last year, FSR at the end of 2020 also cost us $183,000. So that doesn't even include what it could cost us this year. So we're actually going back on last year's numbers. Yes, sir.
What is a CAM? You mentioned CAM. What is it?
It's a
Community association.
community association CAM.
Okay.
And that's the license that they need to have with the state of Florida. Yes.
What about Castle did you guys like? Like, what was it that, other than the fact that everyone wants a dollar phone, you guys, but what were the pros and so on?
As far as, that, I have a list.
Well, I'll just talk about off the top what I like about it. First of all, they were the only company that came that actually talked to us personally. We got to know them on a personal level. We got to know their philosophies, management, what they look for in management and so forth. I particularly like the fact that they have a very thorough, well-documented transition plan. So when you move from one organization to another, you want to make sure it's seamless. And they had a well-organized plan on that. Also, the other company, Leland, in their proposal, they weren't willing to open up their finances. In other words, they weren't willing to tell us specifically all their costs and how that was going to work out in our community on an annual basis. Castle actually figured that out. They took our numbers and analyzed what we're doing now and ran that through with their numbers. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And we just felt that Leland was kind of nickel and diming. There was a lot of, like, for example, if you do postage or get an envelope and they use their envelopes, there's like a 30 or 40% upcharge that they charge.
We've had them before, Steve. Leland,
Yeah.
Pardon me?
they managed this property
That's
before.
right.
Yeah, they were one of the originals.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we just felt there was a lot of nickels.
You know, one of the,
They have some more.
let me just add, one of the things that's required by law in the state is the records have to be kept and transferred. And it's a felony if the previous company tries to disrupt any of that. So all the financial records, all of the financial banking and all of that has to be done properly. It's a legal requirement. So it's not that we're gonna have to worry about it. But this company, Castle, actually has somebody in charge of that. There's a director of transition position in the company. And they have a 100-point questionnaire that she said the first thing they do is they're gonna sit us down and ask us 100 questions about our community. And they use that, they create a 90-day plan. And they come in once a month or once a week, I forget. But they come in, she comes in, and she checks on it as it's being done. So when I asked the other company how they do it, the person who was there said, oh yeah, Matt, we take care of it. We know how to do it. Well, what's the plan? This was a documented plan. They also have, with their maintenance program, the maintenance program for all the maintenance people who are under this company are controlled by a department. The maintenance department supervisor supervises each one of them. They are on the electronic system, the actual maintenance man, not the CAM telling the maintenance man what to do. The maintenance man is told through the electronic system what to do, and they have to track it. We as a board have access to that system. We can input into it, we can see what the progress is, we can know what they're doing every day. Maintenance man is required to turn in a report once a week. We get a copy of that report. So we know what they're doing, and they know what they're doing. They also said the first thing we're gonna do is drive through the community, and we're gonna look at everything, and you can come and point things out that need to be put into their plan of, their work order. And so it's really organized as far as the maintenance, which is one of my pet peeves around here is how the maintenance has not been done correctly. So.
Quick follow-up, we don't have to pay their health insurance,
Yes, that's part of it, and it's included in the pricing that we did. We're paying for, both people would be paid for health insurance.
So how do they,
What? Oh, yeah, but that's actually, it's true. They, as an employee for that company, have a choice whether they want to accept it or not. If we're lucky enough that they have insurance from somewhere else, we won't have to pay it. But we assumed we're gonna pay it. That's when we did our estimate.
so if it's $183,000 and you haven't done the walkthrough or the drive-through yet, pointing out certain things that we want them to do, if I was the management company, I'd be like, well, hold on, we have a price of $183,000. Now you're going to add on to that?
Let me explain. No, I was talking about what the maintenance man's schedule would be for his duties. They get paid a flat salary. They work 40 hours a week here. And so we're going to be pointing out, like, what gutters need to be cleaned and when. When do the signs need to be cleaned? When do the dog stations need to be cleaned? By the way, they've never been cleaned. So that kind of thing.
And the other thing I'd just suggest is when someone asks a question, can you repeat that question? Because I think that little gizmo there picks you up a little bit better than the audience.
Okay. Or how about stand up and say your question? That way we can hear you.
Francois Van Wyk, 710. Just a question, is the proposed contract as vague as the current one, or are we actually going to have a camp for 40 hours a week?
Yes.
And we're not going to pay for their sick days and holidays and
Now,
vacation days,
Well,
like currently?
in any business, this person, whoever it is, they're gonna get a couple weeks vacation. I'm not sure about the sick days, but.
yeah, no, there's a
It's all
complete schedule of what, that was one of the things with, one of the things with FSR's contract was totally ambiguous.
Right.
There's no numbered days off, there's no numbered vacation, we're just supposed to pay it. Well, this is a schedule, we get to see their schedule, this is how many days, these are the days, it's like a contract.
But will we then get somebody that stands in for when that person is on vacation to come sit here in the office?
Oh,
in
that's a good point.
this
Good
place?
point, we'll make note of that.
Is the attorney gonna review this contract?
Absolutely.
Please!
Yeah. And he is a fabulous
Yeah.
attorney.
Please.
Yeah, we just got rid of the other
Yeah.
one, Larson, and
Yeah.
this guy is just,
Yeah.
for
While
many.
while you're thinking of more questions, I'd like to read to you some references that, we got from other properties that had Castle. This one was from Eric Baker, who's at the Del Webb Nocatee Ponte Vedra location. He's actually the president of the board there. He said that they're very good communication with Castle. Upper management is also responsive. They return calls right away and do their best to get answers to questions promptly. They do career fairs to hire people. They recognize that they need to be more competitive in the marketplace to get the best talent. We meaning the board, get to interview any CAMs that the property needs. They're very happy with them overall, no complaints at all. They're a great job with finances, good at controlling costs. They offer cost-saving solutions, which is pretty cool. What a concept.
Well, you actually, can I interject? They actually have a program that they track how much money they save you every month. And part of their presentation or their report every month is how much they've saved you. And they actually encourage the CAMs and all the people working there to work well at that. They're very proud of the fact that they save community money.
They happen to hire a new CAM at that location and they hit the ground running and they're doing a superior job. They don't have a maintenance person at this location. Another guy, Joe Fabrizio from Windward Bay, which is in Longboat Key. He's also the board president. Castle did a good job. It's certainly important to find the right person as the property manager. That's the key. We need to do interviews and reference checks, but they have a very good person. They have a maintenance person. He was honest. He said they went through a few of them until they got the right person. Also in this market, I'm sure you folks are well aware, it's tough to keep a good maintenance person around. You gotta pay them a salary. And we also need to ensure that they have some minor experience with things like electrical and drywall replacement and so forth like that, so you don't have to pay a contractor. They have a person like that's kind of how they save money. They do some of these minor items. Like these boxes that have gone out for the lights on the buildings, these guys can actually put them in. We're not facing them. We used to have two other companies, this was unsolicited by the way, he just offered this. We used to have two other companies, Lighthouse and FSR.
Hello?
We got rid of both of them as they didn't do a good job. They couldn't keep people and they were poor with communication. If you're asking me if I would keep Castle at the new location that I'm moving to, which he's happened to be moving to a new location, he said he definitely would. I've got a couple others, but I just, if you want to read them.
Any condominiums on there, Steve?
What's that?
Any condos on there? Or those homeowners associations?
Condos.
Any condos?
Condominiums.
Or they,
I didn't really ask if they were condos. if you want to read them right here. So, any other comments or questions?
When would they start, if you approve it?
Well, anywhere from 30 to 90 days. I mean, our contract with FSR, quite honestly, says that they have a 90-day out. But, you know, I think Vic is going to present things in a way that, you know, we'd like to make that sooner if we could.
Yeah, I've already had a communication with our attorney about that. And if we decide to hire this company, then he's gonna negotiate out with FSR and try to get us out by September 1st. That's our goal. I don't know if it's gonna happen or not, but
That's a good question.
Well, but the bottom line is FSR has admitted to us, we don't have a manager for you. So how are they in good faith in their contract?
Yeah.
I mean,
Wouldn't that be a breach of
That's what I'm
contract if they
saying,
can't
yeah.
fulfill their
they don't have
duties?
a manager.
So because no attorney ever reviewed the contract with FSR
Yeah.
and changed all the stipulations in it that are in favor of them, it's gonna be hard. That's what, I sent the FSR contracts down to our attorney to review them, and that's what he said. He said it's written completely in their favor, and they could hold us to 90 days if they want to. Yes, Terry?
But you don't know that any of that for a fact.
I'm just telling you what the attorney said.
Are you saying then, guys, that you intend to attempt to get us out of remaining time with FSR and get someone in here that can really do the job? Is that what you're saying?
That's what we're saying.
That's the
We're gonna
plan.
attempt to get them in here as soon as we can.
And logically, we should have, I mean, they shouldn't have a leg to stand on, but as Vic's saying, the contract was so poorly examined by, you know,
We don't know, we just don't know that yet.
right,
So we're not gonna let that happen again.
What other questions, folks?
Is this,
Got one back there.
This does not pertain to anything that you talked about today, but I have an issue of people parking in front of my garage. What can I do?
No, that's not what we're talking about today, but just send an email or send the office an email on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've sent things to the office and no response, but that's what I'm here to say.
Yeah, we're gonna get that fixed.
I've been told upstairs by Will it's a common area.
It is.
Yeah, generally you have like 20 minutes. If you wanna pull up and just unload your car or something, you're there for 20
How many
minutes.
minutes?
I thought I was told 20 minutes. I don't know where I got
It
that.
says 2 hours.
I mean, if you're reasonable and if you're blocking somebody in, be around so you can move it if you have to.
Yeah, but he will park there and I'm trying to get in and I don't wanna wait 20 minutes
Oh,
to
yeah.
get in.
I see your point.
Yep.
All right.
Chris, you have.
no, it was just, it was not pertaining to this
Okay.
matter.
All right, so I'm gonna make a motion that we hire Castle as our management company.
Steve already did that.
Did you?
I made it.
Oh, okay. Do I hear a second?
Do I hear a second?
Second. You can't second it.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
I,
Okay, vote it in.
All right.
I do have one thing, now that the vote's out, I have to get off my chest. I'm not on Facebook, okay? I'm not on social media of any kind. And I know that there's folks out there that are printing what I would consider to be false and inaccurate information. Not only that, they're telling me that I'm incompetent. Well, I have a master's degree. I've been in Fortune 500 companies for 45 years. I know what I'm doing. So for someone to say stuff like that, they don't know me.
Yeah.
So my guess is that soon after this meeting, you're probably going to see some things on Facebook if you're on social media. And I would say to any of you, if you read that stuff, please go to the source and find out why that person said what they did, and then come back to people on the board and ask the questions. We invite comments. I love debate. I want people to speak their mind. Previous boards have not allowed that to happen. You have a voice now. You can say what's on your mind. We may not like to hear it, but you're gonna have a say. So that's all I wanted to say, and
If there are no other questions, I will adjourn this meeting. Who makes a motion to adjourn?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, everybody.
thank you for coming. Appreciate it.